The future of progressive radio. This is the Dean Obadala Show on SiriusXM Progress 127.
And welcome back, Dean Obadala Show. We're live right here, Wednesday, October 10th. It's a chock full of guests, great guests day. Is it working there, Aisha? Right now in studio, welcoming for the first, she's been here before, but she's going to be on almost every other week, we hope, as a regular part of the show. Aisha Moodie-Mills, political strategist, social impact advisor, 15 years of experience building political power for people of color, the LGBT people, and women, named one of the Route 100 top African-American influencers. Pretty impressive stuff. Aisha, nice to see you, my friend.
Hey, it's good to be here with you.
So we got to talk about some stuff, but Juan Williams was just here, and it came up that Kanye West tomorrow is going to meet with Trump. And I want to play Jimmy Fallon last night mocking this idea of the meeting. It's two quick jokes. Clip number 2.
President Trump is going to meet with Kanye West at the White House on Thursday. And this is interesting. They both think they're going to a Twitter intervention for the other person. You know why we're here, right? That's right. Trump is meeting with Kanye at the White House. Trump will be like, I wish you'd been here last week. I had a Supreme Court seat to fill.
So Jimmy Fallon having some fun. Tomorrow, who knows what happens. So Trump is meeting with Kanye West. What, from your sense, why would Kanye West, what is he doing?
Kanye is like a 5-year-old trying to get attention.
This
is his whole shtick, right? So I find it completely ironic. You guys remember when Kanye said that George Bush doesn't care about black people? Right. Y'all remember that?
Sure.
And he said that in the same year, in the same context, that he stole the mic away from Taylor Swift and was like, Beyonce deserves this award. And here we are, where Taylor Swift is actually coming out in a really sensible way with political thoughtfulness around why she supports the candidates that she does based on values and issues. And you got Kanye over here, who is just acting like a complete clown, saying there's actually a TMZ interview with him that came out, I think it was yesterday, where he's saying, well, he's doing this because, you know, he was a child prodigy and he got bullied. And his wearing this Make America Great Again hat and him going and hanging out with Donald Trump is a way of saying, you can't hold me back and you can't bully me anymore because everybody wants to bully me for my opinions. I mean, this guy is literally acting like a 5-year-old imbecile. And what's worse about Kanye is that when called to question about what he's doing, what he's trying to advance, like why he's having a conversation, the guy is so ill-informed, you just want to throw a book at him. You just want to throw it at him. Like, Kanye, read a book. He starts going on about, well, you know, black people used to be Republicans, and his people, his entourage had to stop him and guys, pull this up. It's on TMZ. Had to stop him mid-interview, like, nah, man, you kind of off. Like, you actually don't know history. You're wrong here. Right. And he's like, and so then he said, oh, well, you know, we have to read up on that a little bit, you know, but I'm just saying, like, we should look into it because black people used to be Republicans. I mean, this guy.
And his tweet, he did a tweet where he said we should abolish the 13th Amendment. And then, which was one that ended slavery. And then later he tweeted something that, because I'm like, maybe he means like the documentary, the 13th Amendment. And maybe he was trying to make a bigger point that there's still legal slavery with mass incorporation. But I'm like, I think I'm giving him too much credit by reading that into it.
Too much credit. You're so kind, Dean.
Right, I'm
You're
like,
so
maybe
kind.
that was his bigger point. No, I'm just, because I have no clue what's going on with it. But all right, let's talk about some more pressing things. By the way, there's people in Florida fighting for their lives. It's a monster hurricane, and Donald Trump's having a campaign rally in Pennsylvania. He could not just put off a campaign rally for a night because everything to him is about Donald Trump. So people might literally die tonight, and the last thing they'll get to see is Donald Trump telling jokes at the expense of Democrats. Here was last night, Donald Trump in Iowa. And I want to play this clip because of something happened on it that shocked Donald Trump, and it should be alarming to people. And listen to when the crowd starts cheering their usual chant, but it's about something else. So let's hear clip number 3.
But the Democrats have become too extreme, and they've become, frankly, too dangerous to govern. They've gone wacko. How about Senator Feinstein? That's another beauty. That's a beauty. Did you leak the documents? What? No, I didn't. Did we leak? Did we leak? No, we didn't. Did you ever see? No. She goes, no. He just said, no, we didn't leak. I think they're talking about Feinstein. Can you believe it?
What's interesting to me is that angry mob that was cheering "Lock her up" took Trump by surprise, and he laughed. But it's on some level, his base is so ready to criminalize American politics. They're ahead of him because it was always about Hillary. Now they're saying, let's imprison Dianne Feinstein because she did something we didn't like. And that is what an angry mob sounds like. It's not a handful of people in Portland. They keep showing this footage. I've watched it 3 nights in a row. It opens Tucker Klansman's show every night. And that's his name, Tucker Klansman. And that it opened, and that's all. We are unhinged. We're an angry mob. But you just literally heard an angry mob cheering for the criminalization and imprisonment of a Democratic senator because they didn't like what she did politically. She didn't violate national security or nothing. Where are we going?
We're going straight to hell in a handbasket. That's clearly where we're going with our political system. It's like straight to hell. I mean, yeah, like they are ravenous. They are ravenous on the right and wanting some, I don't know, some liberal blood. I mean, at the end of the day, this mob is literally a lynch mob. These mobs that we are seeing are in direct opposition to the fact that we had a black man in the White House for 8 years. Like, that's what the undercurrent of all of this is. That's what this mob mentality is. And, you know, Donald Trump has been like fuel in the fire. I wouldn't say he didn't create the fire, right? But he's been fuel in the fire. And for the audacity, the hypocrisy, for him to then say, and for the Republicans to say, oh, well, we've been assaulted by the Democrats. This mob of women was up on the Hill trying to attack us as we were doing the hearings. It's just offensive and ridiculous.
How dare people stand up for a woman who's been sexually assaulted? I want to play for you, and you tell me if you think this was the most vile moment in the Trump presidency in a sea of vileness. And that's how I view it. But no, I shouldn't have told you what I thought about before. I know you don't like the clip and hate the clip, but I wonder if it's as momentous it is for you as it was for me, because I did a whole segment last week when it happened, because it literally made my jaw drop when I watched it, and I was so angry. I literally wanted to punch something. Not someone, but something. So let's hear clip number 7.
What he's going through, 36 years ago, this happened. I had one beer, right? I had one beer. Well, do you think it was? Nope, it was one beer. Oh, good. How did you get home? I don't remember. How'd you get there? I don't remember. Where is the place? I don't remember. How many years ago was it? I don't know. I don't know. What neighborhood was it in? I don't know. Where's the house? I don't know. Upstairs, downstairs, where was it? I don't know. But I had one beer. That's the only thing I remember.
So what? Forget politics. What's your reaction as a human being, viscerally, to hear the man who's a president having, to the delight of his crowd, laughing at a sexual assault victim, a survivor? What is your reaction, viscerally?
Yeah, it makes my blood boil, but it also makes my heart break at the same time. There's a reason why the rape culture, right, is perpetuated by fools like him and all of the women that support him, frankly, and his ilk. And I'm just imagining the people in the crowd who have been sexually assaulted. I'm imagining the daughters of the people in that crowd who, after watching this, can't come home and say, hey, mom, hey, dad, this thing just happened to me, because that's how they're going to be treated. And it breaks my heart that there are so many victims who are shamed and silenced among them. Right? Us aside, right? We don't expect empathy from them on our side, but the people, the young girls, the young men that are literally being silenced and shamed, it breaks my heart. It's really, really sad.
And that's a great point, because sexual assault doesn't know a political ideology to it, either in terms of abuser or the woman or man who might be a survivor. 1 in 3 women will suffer sexual assault in their lifetimes. And after speaking to countless women over the last week and emails and stuff, I think that number is an underestimate. I think it's actually higher than that. And I can't tell you how many women called to share that they had been assaulted and they didn't go forward. One said she went forward and the police said, you don't have enough evidence, forget about it. And the message that sends to both men and women: women, you will not be believed, you will be demonized, and men, do whatever you want. It's a time of Mad Men again, and just enjoy your life. And it's not surprising to me that a new CNN poll came out yesterday that showed of registered voters, of women, they asked them who you're going to vote for, Democrat or Republican. 33% said they're voting for a Republican. 63% said they're voting for a Democrat. This is a record gender gap. We've never seen 30-point gender gap, a 30-point gap in that, because men are at like 50% are going to vote. So we're talking, these are huge numbers here. Are you surprised by what I'm calling a pink wave of women that are going to lead this charge?
No, not surprised at all. I mean, you saw the Women's March really fueled this, right? Like really 54% of white women, let's not forget.
Right.
They voted for Donald Trump. So the majority of white women voted for Donald Trump. But then we had the Women's March in January right after that. And I think that was a galvanizing moment, a real spark for women all over who said, look, we're going to stand up to misogyny. Like that's the point, like we're going to stand up to misogyny. And so I'm not surprised to see those numbers. We're seeing some really interesting things happen. So in addition to that poll, Washington Post earlier this week put out a poll that showed that in the 69 battleground districts, House districts, women overwhelmingly are supporting the Democrat. And that's what really matters at the end of the day, is those opportunities to flip seats. And for the Democrats to take back the House, we're seeing women saying we're going to support the Democrat there. And that's huge. And all of this assault and attack on Dr. Ford transcends, I believe, the feelings about Hillary Clinton that is the excuse of why these women voted in the first place. These are suburban moms who are like, wait a minute, we're going to have to rethink these. This isn't the value that we want our children to grow up, believing is okay. So I believe that also, one other point I want to add to that too, which is so dope to me, Dean, is that for the first time in history, we have more women and people of color running for Congress than we do white men. And that's huge because there are more women running across the board than ever before in history. That's galvanizing and empowering for other women as well who want to show up to support women. And then, it also explains why white men feel under attack. Right.
Well, in 1991, after the Clarence Thomas, Anita Hill hearings, the next year they called it the Year of Women. And that's because a record number ran and were elected to Congress. I think November 6th will be the day of the women in that winning election. But also, I honestly believe when we look back at the exit poll, that women are the ones who are going to lead this. And historically, I just wrote about this for Daily Beast, coming out tomorrow. Historically, the biggest part of the electorate in the midterms, women over men. So when you have women breaking so over the top, no one has seen this. In fact, in the article I have coming out, and I talk about at the top of the show, the least amount of votes the Republicans have ever gotten in a midterm since they've kept records since 1982 was 42%. They're looking at 33% right now. Wow. We've not seen this. No one has seen this. And it's a pink wave with a tidal wave of a gender gap in between. I'm hoping women came out. But one thing I must say, going back to white women, in the latest poll, still 48% of white women support Donald Trump. Can you believe this?
I just don't understand. I mean, they're so. I ask people this all the time, like, what in the world? And I guess these are the women who just do what their husbands tell them to, right? Like, these are the women who have a vested interest, and frankly, an economic one, which is also sad and about lack of gender parity, in making their husbands happy and kind of going along with the status quo. You know what else is invigorating to me about women this midterm as well is that in addition to attitudes, right? We expect likely voters, more women are going to vote for Democrats. Right. Women are organizing. So there's also been, since this Kavanaugh hearings, a huge surge in volunteerism around political campaigns all around the country. And it's women who are showing up saying, I want a door knock, I want a phone bank, I want to do something. And that kind of energy where people are actually putting their actions, right, like where their attitudes are, is the thing that is most exciting. And I think that's going to pull out more. I mean, we've been seeing across the board in primaries high turnout, right? So that's going to pull out more and more and more women that we aren't even polling and counting.
And one thing to give people a little perspective, in 2016, the exit polling showed Hillary won women, even though she lost white women. She won women 54% to 41%. So indicating 54% of women voted Democratic. This new poll shows 63% of women are going to vote Democratic. 9 points more is the kind of thing that goes from like you winning a little of the House to a wave, and also potentially winning Senate seats that are close, 3 or 4 points, because the polls are so inaccurate when it comes to midterm voting, because turnout's around 35, 40%, 45%. So you're doing these polls and you ask people, are you a likely voter? And they tell you, yeah. But in reality, 4 out of 10 maybe vote. But if that happens to be more women, that changed everything. All of a sudden we hold on to Florida. We win maybe Tennessee. You win Arizona. You
Well,
win
and the
Nevada,
turnout is going to be higher. I mean,
Texas.
we're already seeing record turnout in just the primaries alone. We're seeing record turnout in a off cycle year, right, in a midterm year. So I'm expecting that turnout is really going to soar, and then that will be a bunch of women who are coming out. And don't get it twisted, though. I mean, young people are participating too, and people of color are really animated as well.
Sure.
So I think that women, people of color, young people are going to turn this tide.
And it was interesting to see in states like Texas, like over 1 million new registered voters.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen the breakdown of them, but it tends not to be older white conservatives who are registering for the first time. It tends to be people of color, younger, people who are more trained. They move from one place to another.
Yeah.
It's not like Florida would be different. Older white conservative might be rich or doing well, and they move down to Florida to retire. Texas is that kind of state.
Nope.
And so when I see that, I'm like, maybe Beto O'Rourke wins. Imagine beating Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
Oh my! It would be almost as good as Obama winning. To
Right.
beat Ted Cruz.
God forbid you let the Latino community actually vote. Vote your ass out of office is what happens, right?
So let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the angry mob and why the Republicans are using this term angry mob over and over and over. And I sit here every night and Fox News is on. And then I read Media Matters and Mediaite afterwards. And for the last 3 nights in a row, it's been angry mob, angry mob, angry mob, Fox Friends. And
they're good at beating down a message.
right. So let's talk about why, because I don't know where it resonates, but they think it does. So let's take a break, come back with our friend Aisha Moodie-Mills right here on the Dean Obadala Show. Progressive values are the best of American values, and we need to keep fighting for them to save our country.
Don't go anywhere. This is the Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127. Welcome to the Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.
Welcome back, Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live right here. Wednesday, October 10th. The one, the only Aisha Moodie-Mills in the studio, political strategist. You see her on MSNBC kicking butt, which I saw the other day on Meet the Press, fighting, making it clear. I can't remember what it was, but all I knew was like, yes, perfect. So let's talk about a couple of things. One thing is the Republicans now, their new thing is that we are an angry mob. I played the Trump clip where he said it, and in front of me, Fox News during the commercials, I could watch Tucker Klansman do his thing about Democrats are unhinged and we're scary. And you wonder, does it seep in? Does it go where it's supposed to? Well, here's this morning, Lauren, let's play this from Fox and Friends. They're sitting there, Todd Piro's there, and at breakfast, and they're at a diner, and listen to this Trump supporter. And they knew what he was going to say, and listen to what he says, and you can hear that the message is being absorbed by the amoebas that they want. Here's clip 4.
If you don't think the Republicans are fired up for the midterms, then you don't know Erie, Pennsylvania. One of those guys that's fired up is David. David, you say Democrats fight on, quote, a battlefield of hatred. Those are bold words. Why do you say that?
Because they want to drag us down through the mud to the brink of anarchy and create another civil war in their quest for total domination, which is the credo for socialism.
That basically said it all. David, thank you.
You get a free breakfast, David. You got socialism, anarchy, and mob in that. But the idea that, and I've had listeners 2 days ago say the same thing, conservatives saying the Democrats are about violence, and you ask them, I go, Antifa. I'm like, Antifa's not part of our Democratic Party. There's not, Democrats have denounced them. In fact, I've written about Antifa and quoted Antifa people who said they're not Democrats at all. They're anti-everything. They're anarchists in a way. They hate the whole financial system. They're anti-capitalist. They're not pro-socialist. But doesn't matter. Truth doesn't matter.
We just only have to look to Charlottesville to see that there were actually people killed in that angry mob of white supremacists who count themselves as Republicans, who Donald Trump thinks are good people. So don't tell me about violence, right? Don't tell. Right. And it's so frustrating to me because they like to spin the truth, right, and try to claim the victim. I am so pissed off at Mitch McConnell and the rest of the Republicans right now trying to claim that, all these old white guys are being so victimized. God forbid that Democrats exercise their rights and try to preserve our democracy and petition the government. And somehow they think that they are being threatened because we're just petitioning the government. They need a civics lessons, first of all.
There's one currency for Trump, but you're actually right. There are two now. One currency I said for Trump is cruelty. That's what I think it's about. The other is victimhood. Mm-hmm. And if you watch Fox News enough, you realize that in their view, white people, especially white men who are Christian, who are straight, are suffering. They are being oppressed. And America's not the way it should be. I'm afraid to think what they thought it should be. But in any event, the victimhood is what inspires them to keep fighting. So when I put this through that prism, I'm like, oh, Democrats are coming to get you. Again, they're the victim. And that has worked. Fear works for the right. Fear of Muslims, fear of blacks, fear of gays, fear of Latinos. Now it's fear of Democrats. Like, we are now the enemy of the people, not fellow citizens who happen to disagree.
Well, here's the thing, right? So they also hate being politically correct. And the thing is that this fear is really getting to the heart of what they actually feel. And so the truth is, and I was actually just on the phone with my cousin on the way over here who drives Lyft and Uber, and he was saying he's in Georgia. And he's like, I just had a conversation with this white woman who was in my car, and she was talking about how to be a white person. She's a good white person, right? She's not racist. She's not a bigot. She's not all these things. But to be a white person, they really do feel like the discourse around the celebration of diversity in America, the fact that we had a black president, and all of these things makes them feel like being white is wrong. And they've internalized this feeling that, like, being white, they are kind of under attack because we're glorifying people of color and gay people and whatever else it is. And if I'm straight and white and Christian, then I'm not the person being celebrated anymore. So they're already feeling some sense of, like, let's be real. They're feeling the fact that, like, they're not superior. They're actually feeling that their privilege is no longer going to continue to be their privilege as our nation evolves. And so they're emotionally, resisting this loss of privilege, but they can't sum it up that way. And so the Republicans are stoking those fears, playing off of those feelings. I think the conversation that some want to have, that, Dean, I have to be honest with you, I am not civilized enough to want to have this conversation. But the conversation that some people want to have is to say, you know what? These are real concerns and fears of white folks. This is why we lost laborers, right? We lost so many white guys in labor unions who didn't vote for Hillary. We need to figure that out and connect to them emotionally and talk to them, because the only people connecting with them emotionally are actually stoking those fears and making them angry, as opposed to consoling them. That's not my job. White people, y'all need to get yourself together and like, figure that out amongst yourselves, but somebody needs to talk about that.
Well, you just touched on something that I brought up, and I struggle with it because I'm not sure what we do. Because here's the truth. The truth is, here's a phantom menace, and here's the truth. The phantom menace is Muslims are going to take over America and impose Islamic law, Sharia law. That's a phantom menace. That's not going to happen. And at some point, you can certainly reach people and go, look, there's only 1% of the country is Muslim. We can't do it. We have a constitution. And then some of you might go like, all right, well, I'm going to keep my eye on you, right? But demographic change is real. That's not a phantom menace. And America is changing. And by 2045 or 2050, white people will be a minority. There's not going to be any other group that eclipses them on their own, but collectively they will be. It is a real threat. For those who are truly fearful of it, I can't tell them it's not going to happen. The thing is, the only thing we can do is try to figure a way to have a conversation to say, everything you believe in won't be destroyed by that. And that maybe on some level you can reach some by saying it's the beauty of America. We're dynamic. But for those who are truly scared of that, and there was a poll, and I keep quoting it, in mid-2000, they asked white people, does your race matter to you and how you vote? And American white people said almost zero. It was not, and you know politics, it was not statistically significant for voting. So it actually meant nothing. Flash forward, 2016, over 30% of all white people, not Republicans, of all white people said, my race is now important to me when I vote. That number is going to go up as demographics shift. And that's when you have an authoritarian demagogue who, like Trump, succeeds, and someone worse could follow him. Like, we can't think of that, but yes, I don't know how you reach those white people that really, we're demographically changing. It is a real fear. If you really fear it, it's happening. I can't tell you it's not.
The question is, why are you scared?
Right. I mean,
why are you scared?
And that's the point to get to. Like, how do we have that conversation where, look, it's going to happen. Things are going to change, but your life, your family's life is not going to be worse for it. Don't be afraid. How do you do that? That's the question.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is a question. I always ask, like, what are you afraid of? Because if they were to answer the question honestly about what they're afraid of, they would also have to acknowledge that they're white supremacists. Because they believe that white people being the majority should be the way of life for whatever reasons that create some sense of safety, stability, security in their world. And to acknowledge that they feel some type of way about white people not being the majority is to acknowledge that, like, they're white supremacists, right? That's where it all just breaks down and gets really murky. And I think that, you know, again, I will honor the fact that I am not the person, Aisha Moodie-Mills is not the person to talk to white people about this. I have some really great friends. One of them I'm going to shout out on Facebook, Dana, who grew up with my wife and my sister-in-law, who is a white woman on Long Island, who is using her platform to actually talk to white people about race, white privilege, racism. And she's had so many different fights. People have like left her as friends, but she's doing her best because she acknowledges that there's a conversation that white America needs to have with itself.
Right.
That white America isn't having with itself. And frankly, the progressives aren't having with themselves and with other white people, and they're allowing Donald Trump and the Republicans, as they have for decades, to dominate it. I mean, this is not a new playbook. This is kind of the culmination of the 20 and 30-year strategy the Republicans have had to really create this racial divisiveness, to use dog whistle politics and race bait. This is how they have moved into power. So this isn't a new thing. Right. It's just the culmination of it.
And you know, if you think it's hard to talk about white supremacy, we can't even talk about white privilege before some white people's spine go up and they get very upset. And I understand, because the term itself, literally, if you're a white person, you're not doing well, their answer right away is, where's my privilege? What's going better in my life? And especially they're low economic, they're struggling, and I get it, because the term to them is off-putting because it doesn't define what it's really about. But even the term white supremacy, for many white people, if you're not burning a cross on someone's lawn, you're not a white supremacist. And race is so hard to talk about in this country. As I know, I've struggled with it. I'm not white. I look like a white person. Maybe I can be a bridge on some level. I used to be white before 9/11. Then I really
then you
I was.
became Muslim.
Well, I was
Jeez.
after 9/11 because I'm Muslim and because I'm of Arab heritage. I have Allah in my last name, Obidallah. things changed and I became a minority, and it took years, and it's true. It's not a game. It's not a gag. It's true. That's my story. I have a unique experience where I was part of I had white privilege. I lost it. They took my card away. I can't get it back. At the beginning, I fought that. I wanted to remain as a white person, frankly, because there are benefits. Now I embrace very much being a minority. I'm almost Malcolm X Muslim.
I actually want to read your book, The Benefits of Being a White Man.
Right, I should pitch that. What it's like and how it was taken. And I always say September 10th, I went to sleep a white guy. September 11th, I woke up an Arab, and that's sort of shorthand my life. I don't know. I'm really worried because that number of white people who say their race is important to them and the way they vote is going to go up as they feel more instability, white fragility, whatever you want to call it. It's real. And I'm not putting any Trumper who's listening, any white people. I'm telling you, I am truly trying to figure out a way to have this conversation to make it clear, like everything you believe in is not going to be destroyed because you're going to have a quality. Because it was the same arguments around the time of the Civil Rights Act.
See, consider this. I think that everything that they believe in has already been destroyed by their own people. And that is the fallacy that we're allowing so many of these Trump supporters who are not right-wing lunatics by any stretch, but just people who supported Trump. We're letting them believe this fallacy that their condition, their economic condition, is based upon some brown people coming here. Yeah. When the truth is that the economy sucks for a lot of reasons. If they want to be mad, we should all be rallying and getting mad at automation, right? The reason why you're not getting your coal job back, the reason why steel is not coming back in a big way, it has to do with automation. There's so many things around the economic condition of folks. It's, you used to be able to, and I was actually talking to people out on Long Island about this and feeling really sad for them. Middle-aged white folks, you could not go to college and work for the city. There's one guy who's worked for the county, Suffolk County, for 40 years, own a home on Long Island, send both your kids to college, right? That used to be a real thing, and now economically it's just not. And that has a lot to do with a lot of things. It doesn't have to do with whether you're black or brown. The Republicans are very good at making everything about race, and we are really horrible at making anything about the economy.
And also, they're very good at something else you're touching on, at framing things in an overly simplistic way that doesn't actually address the problem, but it sells well, which is things aren't working out in your life because of the immigrant, of the brown person, of the black person, of the Muslim, whoever the outsider is. And that's very interesting. Now, I want to play a clip of Eric Holder today, because they already started playing him on Fox News. They didn't play it to death yet, but it was Eric Holder today. And some parts of this I agree so much. I'm just worried about his one choice of word, but I want to get you to tell me if I should just relax about it. So, and he was at a rally in Georgia for Stacey Abrams and some other local candidates. Let's hear clip number 9.
They have used the power that they have gotten for all the wrong things. They want to keep themselves in power. They want to cater to the special interests. It is time for us as Democrats to be as tough as they are, to be as dedicated as they are, to be as committed as they are. Michelle always says, Michelle Obama, I love her, she and my wife, like, really tight, which always scares me and Barack. But Michelle always says that, when they go low, we go high. No. When they go low, we kick them. That's what this new Democratic Party is about. We're proud as hell to be Democrats. We're willing to fight for the ideals of the Democratic Party. We're proud of our history. We're proud of our present. And we're proud of the future that we can create for this country. And we're not in this just to make a statement. We're in this to win. Yes. All right? And the reality is, if we don't win, people who are less committed, less idealistic, less imbued with the values that make this nation really great, will run this country.
I love so much that. I love this. This is a values fight coming up. The only concern is the kick comment. And only because I know the GOP and the Fox Newsers are already making hay with it. I'm sure Hannity will. Tucker already showed it. And the others. And it feeds in this narrative that we're actually advocating violence. And I saw it trended on Twitter today. And I'm not trying to convert any Trumpers to our side. I don't care. If you want to come over, you're welcome. I'm not going to do anything. But I just don't want people in the middle to think like, boy, those Democrats are really using violent imagery now. So this clip, when you hear it, I think it's so motivating. I think Eric was great on this, General Holder. I don't know the man, so I shouldn't call him Eric, but General Holder. But I just wonder if the kick thing, does it matter? What do you think in the big picture? So
I don't think it matters I don't think it matters for this reason. All these mythical people in the middle don't really exist.
Okay, fair
and
enough.
that's not, in my humble opinion, that's just the way that politics, unfortunately, very sadly, is broken down in America. We are completely polarized. This mythical do-a-jig for like whoever, these people who call themselves independent still have a point of view and an ideology. So they may not be partisans, but they are skewed toward a side.
Sure.
And it doesn't matter, I don't think, because Eric Holder is rallying the base, right? Like he is rallying his base, and you win when you rally your base. Just like if he was the coach of a football team, he'd be like, "We're gonna pummel them, we're gonna win, we're gonna beat them down," right?
Exactly, right.
And then similarly, if Tucker, what'd you call him, Tucker KK Carlson?
Tucker Klansman.
Tucker Klansman.
He
If
is
Tucker Klansman,
I even told Juan Williams I call him Tucker Klansman.
I love this. I'm totally quoting you, Dean. If Tucker Klansman puts this up, he's just rallying his base too, right? I think, though, that there is a really poignant point that Eric Holder made that we don't talk about enough, and we need to talk about this as Democrats, is that we have gotten our asses kicked for 30 years in big ways. I mean, we had Barack Obama, and then Nancy Pelosi had the gavel for like 2 years. Yay, right? We got Obamacare. But the truth is, most of my 20-year career, we were in the minority. And the reason why the Democrats have lost over and over, and how we've lost most of the state houses and the governorships, is because the Republicans have been strategic. We complain and whine and fight against the structural inequalities, and we're trying to change the system. The truth is that they've played the system. They've played the game as it is, and they've outplayed us time and time and time again. So when he says, like, we need to get serious, the new party actually needs to be, like, seriously, like, in this to win it. What he's been doing with his organization is to have a state-based strategy to try to take back, like, at the local level, at the state house level, those seats, right? Have a strategy that's looking at the 20-year long term, so that by the time we actually get to the 2045-ish demographic shift, where people of color become on par or the majority in this country, will also have seen the state legislatures reflect that, right? Like over the next 20 years. And so, I mean, that's true, and we don't want to fess up to it, but they beat us at the game. They beat us at the procedural game. They beat us at the strategic game. They're playing our democracy better than we play our democracy.
They have 32 governorships right now. Nearly 2/3 of the state legislatures right now. This is where we are. They have the Senate, they have the House, and they have the presidency. There was something he said, and when I played the clip now for a second time, I heard it and it jumped out, and you just touched on it. The new party. That's very interesting for him, Eric Holder, to say the new Democratic Party. And what does he mean by that? And I wish the media would ask him, does he mean this party now that we're seeing these younger people, or it doesn't matter your age. When I keep saying this is a generational fight for us, but it's not one defined by age, it's by values and what we see as a vision for our nation and our party. Is he getting at the Democratic Party has to be more bold and has to be out there and be in their face more? Not literally yelling at people, but punching back. And I don't mean literally. It's so hard not to use. That's what I get it. It's so hard not to use terms that if you want to really break them down, it's violent imagery. And I'm certainly not. I am become 100% against any kind of. I'm all for ballots and not bullets and not any kind of bullying at all. I believe we'll win because since 1992, we've won the popular vote for president every time but one. Yet because of Electoral College, we've won 92, 96, 2000. We only lost 2004. We've won every other one. Yet they've gotten the presidency so many times in that time. So when he says the new Democratic Party, what is that?
That's a good question. I wonder, because he is a presidential hopeful, if he, as a black man, is trying to transcend the Obama era. Right, and define himself and define the context of the party and where we are as like the post-Trump Democratic Party, right? Yeah. As opposed to the Clinton era party or the Obama era party. I think that, what saddens me about all of this, and I don't know how we overcome it, is that he's also acknowledging the fact that, like, we're in fight mode. we were in a hope and change mode and a history making, right? The first woman. We were into this transformation, this evolution that was beautiful and bold. And now we're actually in fight mode. And that is a difference of where the party is. That's a difference in where the people are. And the good news, I guess, for the midterms is that fight is riling people up, right? We're seeing turnout. But I don't think it's sustainable. I really don't think it's sustainable.
And it's funny when you talk about the new Democratic Party over your shoulder. Is the local channel New York One, Michael Bloomberg, who's thinking of running for president, just today re-registered as a Democrat. So
did he? I missed
literally
that.
Today, just breaking news here. So Michael Bloomberg, who said he might run for president, would run as a Democrat, and the anchor's shaking his head. It's like, oh, no. You folks, it was just funny. We literally watched the anchor go, oh no, because it's talk about old Democratic ways. It's Republican light. That's he represents the idea of a Democrat as Republican light because he literally was a Republican, then an independent, now a Democrat. And it's the old times when Democrats and Republicans really didn't have much of a difference on gun issues. He's great, but on other things, let's take a break. We'll come back. We got more to talk about. Do you want to take any calls if people want to chat with us here?
Oh, fun.
All right, we'll try to take some calls as well, folks. Stay on hold, 866-997-4748. Get to talk to Aisha Moodie-Mills. She's going to talk to a white person maybe tonight. We'll see if that works out right now after this break. November 6, 2018 isn't just election day. It is judgment day for progressives and our vision of this country.
Don't go anywhere. This is the Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127. New perspectives, important voices, influential ideas. This is the Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.
Welcome back, Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live right here, Wednesday, October 10th, here with Aisha Moodie-Mills, strategist, activist. You know her from MSNBC, where she kicks butt. I gotta take you and Danielle are like, and Zerlina, all of you guys are great. All
We're
right,
tag teaming.
let's see. Here's Steve from North Carolina. Has got an issue with liberals or something. Steve, how are you?
Hey, Dean. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure, my friend. So I couldn't tell from the notes what your point is. So go ahead, tell us.
Well, the problem that I have, and I know you say you're wanting to have a conversation about the changing demographics, and they are going to come. But you have a guest on that says that any white person that expresses any concern about that is a white supremacist. I'm sorry, that's not a way to start having a conversation.
Well, I think Aisha, do you want to respond? Because Aisha even said, admittedly, she's not the person to have this conversation. So I think she knows that, but she's sharing her view. I mean, her view that white people are concerned.
That's true, yeah. I mean,
Steve,
admittedly, I'm not exactly, yes, ma'am.
Hi, Steve. Thank you for calling in to us. So my question is, and why I admit, I will raise my hand and say, I don't know that I am the best person to launch these conversations, or because I frankly do not understand one question. And that is, what foundationally is alarming about people of color, American citizens, now being in equal numbers to white people in our country? I don't. That's my genuine question. Like, what's the alarm, and what happened? What are you guys concerned about?
I understand that, and I myself may not be exactly the person that Dean's wanting to talk to, because I am not a Trump voter. I haven't voted for a Republican for president since George H.W. Bush.
Wow.
But I think there is the perception out there amongst a lot of white people that the ideas of what makes up American culture is actually white culture, okay? Which I don't think it has to be. I think it can be American culture, and anybody can be part of that culture. But the perception is, okay, white culture, that's individual rights and rule of law and blah, 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 blah. And they, the perception
I've heard,
is
Stephen, I've heard people who are the ones who are the closeted white nationalists, white supremacists, use the term European identity, and that our nation is founded on European identity. And that's the same language used by the European white nationalists in Europe, saying, and that's a little different. They are European. They're literally in Europe. The hard thing for me is this idea of that we have a European identity in this country when people came here from all over. I mean, slaves were a big percentage of our population at one point as well. They certainly weren't from Europe. They were from Africa. So I don't know. To me, when I hear European identity from any white person says we have to preserve our European identity, to me, that is just code for white identity, as opposed to Europe, where you can make an argument we're in Europe and we're European. We're not European nation. We're American. We're the United States of America. We're only 200-something years old. We're a melting pot from day one. The DNA of this nation is e pluribus unum, from many one, literally in the Great Seal. So
right. So given that, when we say, Stephen, I know I appreciate you trying to explain this, because I'm understanding what you're saying, and it's to some degree enforcing my point. The language that I use, where I say, okay, well, what comes up is white supremacy. It's like equivocating here, because when someone says, well, my white identity is what is the foundation of the United States, I'm hearing white people are supreme. Right. So that's where I get, kind of curious as to how do white people hear that? Right. Is it just a changing of language to say, oh, well, white identity versus white supremacy?
Stephen, we got to go to break like in 50 seconds. So go ahead.
And also, Dean, you also mentioned the percentages of white voters saying their race matters to them in the vote.
And a poll,
it's
now about 30%, a little over 30% in 2016.
Yeah. So. Where am I trying to go with this?
Something's going on, Stephen. That's all I know. There are and that I don't know how to reach, because I'm fearful of where we go as a country, because history tells us that if people in power and white people in this nation in the past have been threatened, violence has been used against people of color. And I don't want our nation to ever get there. But Stephen, I got to go to a break. I'm getting yelled at by Lauren.
Sure thing.
All right, nice chatting with you. I appreciate it. Let's take a quick break.
Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress 127. The Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.
Hey, and welcome back, Dean Obadala Show. Aisha Moodie-Mills here. We only have about a minute left, so we're going to take any more calls. Well, it's funny. We're talking about white nationalism, white supremacy, and during the commercial, as always, I am fixated on Tucker Carlson, Tucker Klansman. They're doing a segment on American fertility rate at 42-year low American fertility rate, and every image they show, I'm not kidding, is of a white couple. And you know what they're getting at. Aisha, this is where we are. Mm-hmm. This is going, and people are watching this, and they're like,
well, at least they're not putting up black
people are having
women.
babies,
yeah.
And white people, and they might as well just say white fertility rate, because that's what Tucker Carlson did with the imagery, folks. I'm not kidding. If it was Americans of all different colors, it would be different. Every image they showed, their point was white cake, white people, white hands,
Tucker
white
Klansman
bodies.
for a reason. White people, don't be scared. That's my appeal to you. There's nothing to fear. There's nothing to fear.
Sharia law is coming. All right, Aisha, thanks so much for coming in studio. I really enjoyed chatting with you. Folks, thanks for tuning in. Have a great night. Tomorrow, a lot of stuff, criminal justice reform special we've got, and Congressman Tom Suozzi will be here, and a lot more stuff on the Dean Obadala Show.